Give it up for Art Sturtevant, ladies and gentlemen. Give it up for Art.
Keep it going for Randy. I don't know about y'all, but I'm really grateful that he got the mic up and running, because I keep showing up for places and at places where they're supposed to have a stand-up show and they don't have a working mic, and there's always that guy that's like, be a man, do it anyway, you know, vocal production. And I hate that, because stand-up comedy without a microphone, it makes you that guy in the disaster movie who's trying to get everybody together, you know. I'm Art Sturtevant, I'll be your comedian tonight. I know you're all very frightened. Frankly, so am I. With a microphone, you say things like, how many folks are on Facebook, or how many folks have kids. Without a microphone, it's, I ask you, who among you has children? So one more round of applause for Jason. Woo! Jason and I perform a lot together. He just turned 50. We perform with a lot of people in their 20s and 30s that are always talking about being old. And Jason comes on and says, you're old, I'm 50. And then I get to come on and say, you're old, I'm 58. And I was like, look out at all of you. One thing comes to mind. Be 17. So one more round of applause for Randy.
Really? That's the best you can do.
See, I don't think hosts like Randy get enough respect anymore. Because every week I come to a place like this and someone like him comes out on stage and says with all the authority of MC, everybody give it up for Art. But people just clap. Nobody ever gives it up for Art. I'm not saying I could handle it if all of you gave it up for Art. God, I'd like to try. I was at a show recently and there were like 7 people in there with their dogs. I was like, what in the world? People bring their dogs everywhere now. And then I stopped and thought about it. I thought, you know, it was a bar. Dogs in a bar makes all the sense in the world. Because who's gonna appreciate drunk sincerity more than a dog? It's like, hey boy, who's a good boy? No man, I mean it. Who's a good boy? No, it's you and me here. You are the most incredible boy ever. And now the dog's like, finally somebody gets me. And you're like, dude, do you want to go outside? And the dog's like, ah! Do you want to go get in the car? And the dog's like, maybe not the car. So I bought one of those new cooling gel mattresses, and then I bought the cooling mattress protector they recommended. And then I set the air conditioner before bedtime. I woke up 300 years later in a dystopian future. So Dollywood, theme park or 160-acre Cracker Barrel? The hair on my chest makes me feel like a man. The hair on my back makes me feel like a bad man. My wife bought me Converse All-Stars. She bought me Chucks because she supports my dream of being a professional basketball player in 1952. So now all I need is a pair of those really short shorts and a flux capacitor, right? Marty, we have to get you back to 1952 when these shoes made sense. You better laugh, that hurt. I don't know, how many of you folks have a smartphone with you? Yeah. That is not many people. know if I could do that joke. We're going forward with it. So I don't know about y'all forward that have one. But I keep walking around, I keep, watching it like everybody else, except for most of you. And I keep running into that person who's like, everybody's got their nose in a phone now. Nobody ever pays attention to each other anymore. And I don't know about y'all, but it seems to me like the person saying that is the most boring person in the world. It's not that we're not paying attention to each other anymore. We're not paying attention to you. I'm playing Plants vs. Zombies on that phone. If you can't be more interesting than a zombie or a plant, it might just be time to try harder. So, if you listen to a lot of comedians, most of them in their 20s and 30s, and they're always, shooting themselves down, talking about how they're not especially sexy, don't have great game, don't do well with romance. And I guess that's true of a lot of comics. But I have an edge. You see, I only do comedy at night. During the day, I'm a 58-year-old overweight bald Uber driver. So line up, bitches. I do drive Uber, and I am 58, and obviously I don't feel especially old at 58, except for compared to most of the comics I'm around all the time. But they are starting to make me feel old, and I catch myself saying the old stuff now. Like I used to work in a furniture store, and I'd be showing people power recliners, be like, when I was your age, we had to do our own reclining. Back in my day, mullets roamed the earth. If a woman mentioned her selfie stick, we all knew what she was talking about. We didn't have no Fox News. We had the Ku Klux Klan. Ooh, 30-70. Like 30-70 Republican Democrat. Okay? Oh, wait, maybe the joke's just not funny. I started doing that voice when I was 20 years old. And it would kill because I was 20 years old. And I was hanging around with my 20-year-old friends, and a song would come out like, I used to listen to this when I was your age. And they would die, they'd crack up. But what I started to notice over the years, as my actual age approaches the age of the person whose voice I'm doing, the comedy value diminishes significantly. Now it's like, no, I was right. No, it was like when you were my age. Sir. Thinking about getting a tattoo because everybody's argument against it is, how's that gonna look when you're 60? Mine's gonna be fine! My last job I had, I was walking out of it one night, and co-worker couldn't get her car started. And she comes over and she goes, do you have jumper cables? And I'm 58 years old. Of course I have jumper cables. You don't ask me, do you have jumper cables? You ask me, how many jumper cables do you have? I have 7 in my car. Not feeling especially old. Like one time when I was working in that furniture store, I was working with a couple, a man and his adult daughter, and he was buying stuff for her college place, and they're both runners, and they're talking about running the whole time, and finally I said, I run too, I'm a runner, and I swear to you this is true. She shook her finger in my face, and she said, you see, you're never too old to start. And I was like, that's horrible, but then I thought, you know what? It's kind of cool being never too old age. You get all sorts of unearned extra credit for things like knowing what a TARDIS is, or not having a reverse mortgage, or erections. Nevertheless, I told her to get off my lawn. So, I was at the doctor's office recently, and I was in the waiting room, and I couldn't help but notice this beautiful picture on the waiting room wall. It's a painting of an operating room, and there's a surgeon in this painting doing a procedure. And standing right next to the surgeon, his hand on the surgeon's hand guiding him through the operation, was Jesus. And I gotta admit, it made me feel good. It would have made me feel better if he was wearing a mask and gloves. I'm not especially religious, and I have worked in some very religious workplaces. You know, like the last place I worked, there was they were always wanting you to pray. They were saying grace and invocation, and they stopped asking me to pray. And I think it was because the last time they did, I said, "Crom, I have never prayed to you before. I haven't the tongue for it. Valor pleases you, Crom, so grant me revenge. And if you do not listen, then to hell with you. Amen." So I was watching some old movies recently on TV. I came across one I hadn't seen since the 70s, Magnum Force. Anybody ever seen that? Round of applause. You are lying. I believed it about the phones, but you've seen Magnum Force. Some of you were in it. Magnum Force, the way it starts, I'm going to pretend y'all don't remember this. It starts with a hand holding a handgun with a black background and a voiceover from Clint Eastwood saying, "The 44 Magnum is the most powerful handgun in the world." And I thought, wouldn't it have been cool if all of Clint Eastwood's movies had started with science facts? The giant squid can grow to 60 feet in length. Light travels at 186,000 miles per second in a vacuum. 2 plus 2 is 4, I don't know. I quit doing comedy for about 25 years. And when I wasn't doing stand-up, I didn't get out to places like bars and clubs very much. And I gotta tell you, in 25 years, those places changed. It was like being in, I don't know, Frozenation or something. But the first thing I notice about the way they're different is that men hug each other in bars now. And I didn't get the man hug at first. You know, I got it now. It's a quick, you know, in and out and it's over. And I was doing it wrong. I was like, I have missed you. You smell so good. Another thing I noticed is that I kept seeing people do this gesture and say, "Raise the roof." And it took me a couple times seeing that and hearing those words before I realized this was supposed to be a person raising up a roof. And then I thought, what a lazy bunch of actors. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you raising the roof. Somebody yell action. Action! Save yourselves! I can't hold it much longer! They're just laughing bring Randy up, I just want to say congratulations to the wonderful comics you saw from the class tonight. And I'm out of breath from raising a pretend roof. You guys have been wonderful. Let's bring Randy back up to the stage.
Art Sturtevant, everybody. Thanks, Art. All right.